I have in front of me here an ultra slimline fixed wall TV bracket. Okay, so basically this bracket here, you can see it comes in this presentation box here, will support televisions from the size range of 37 inches to 60 inches. But really what the size of this thing is the VESA standard, okay? So it supports TVs all the way from 200 by 200 all the way up to, it says in the box here 600 by 400, but I think you'll find it'll actually support 600 by 600 as well, okay? You just check the text of the pages first. So we'll just give an overview on that topic later. But what we're going to do here is I'm just going to move this presentation box out of the way. We'll talk about what actually comes inside the kit. So the first thing is we have a user manual here, and what you can see is that it has instructions on it on how to safely mount this, depending on whether you're mounting it on a dry line wall or on a brick or a concrete wall. And then there's three basic component parts to this. The first thing that we have on this is that we have a bracket, we can see here, that would mount on the wall. And the other part is a bracket that will mount directly onto the television itself. So let's look at the bracket that's going to be mounted on the wall. If we come along here, we'll see there's arrows pointing upwards, so we'll obviously mount it with this way up. How are we going to get it square? It gives a spirit level here which we can use. And we just use this for marking out the holes. We guide it in, and then we'll use a drill, the drill out. And you can see there's two plugs here and two screws here as well, and we'll use that for mounting this bracket onto the wall. And the fact that it's slotted gives it a little bit of leeway here. Okay, so I'll put that down for a moment. The next thing is the screws and bolts that we use here. Basically, I've introduced you the screws we use for mounting this onto the wall. We've some spacers here as well, and we'll use that for keeping the base of the television out from the wall. Okay, in terms of if we want to keep the angle of it mounted straight, or if we want it angled back at the wall. And next thing here is we have 4 screws and 4 different types of bolts here. And basically the idea in this is that depending on the VESA standard, it might be the larger ones or the smaller ones. And there's washers that we use in conjunction with it for mounting. Okay? So we'll come along anyway, we'll look at the bracket here that we'll use for bolting onto the television. So the first thing to note is we'll see these little hooks that are hanging down here and strings. And I'm going to give you an overview of that in a minute. The first thing I'm going to say is if we're using this to mount this onto the television, if we have a television there, I just put this bolt directly through that hole, and it's screwed into the VESA holes that are on the television, and it's screwed in. Now the VESA standard is applicable to virtually all televisions, and it just agrees on the size of the thread and also the distances of the holes apart, so that you can standardise across all television makers and indeed all television bracket makers. So the next thing here is, we'll see here, if we come along, and we'll see that we have a sort of locking mechanism here. We have the string pulled down. If we come along and we pull heavily on this string, we can pull it down so it's not locking anymore. And if we release it back up, we can see there's a little catch here, and we'll be able to catch it quite well. So what would happen here is we would come along, and we would grab this television here, or this bracket here, and we would simply come along and we'd slot it in here like this, and slot it in here like this as well. And we can see it goes in quite nicely, and if we want to slot that in, we pull it down here, and we pull it in here, and we lock it in, okay? And if we had a lot of force from underneath the television coming up, it won't be able to knock the television off the wall simply because this locking mechanism is there. And if we want to slide it off the end of the television, we actually have a locking mechanism here as well, where it's actually catching here on these lips, okay? So we can see it's a very neat and compact design. It's a relatively new one, simply because there's a move towards people want a television as flat to the wall as possible. And also from the manufacturers, they've obviously been able to produce a very compact, neat and efficient bracket that does the job and is meeting the cluster requirements. So that's it anyway, an overview of the ultra slimline fixed TV wall bracket and the sizes of TVs this can generally support is from 37 inches all the way up to 60 inches.